Good morning, all. We do have a quorum, and it's my understanding we have our controller coming in a few minutes. So we'll give it a few more minutes for those that are listening or viewing. Apologize for a little bit of the delay here, but we should get started in a few minutes.
Start now.
We good?
We could begin if you want to.
Is AT&T ready to go?
Everyone's ready, yeah. The door's closed.
Why don't we go ahead at least get the preliminary things
Yes,
going?
let's go.
Okay. Let me turn it over to Ms. Cicchetti. If
Good
you
morning,
please-
everyone. We're going to call roll. Chair Vasquez,
Present.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Here.
Member Gaines,
Here.
Member Schaefer, Deputy Controller Emron.
Here.
So we have a quorum present. I guess we'll officially open the meeting. And we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance, if I can get everybody to stand who can. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, let me just, I know we have several folks. I specifically have a couple that I'd like to, when we get to the adjournments, we lost a couple of very powerful people, not only here in California, but also those that also represented outside of California as well. So we'll hold those until the close. But I do want to open up with some opening remarks, and then I'll turn to my colleagues and see if they have any opening remarks before we start get into the agenda itself. This month of May, for many of you know, marks the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, which celebrates the contributions and influence of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to our history, society, and culture. This year's theme is a seat at the table. And when I hear that theme, seat at the table, it kind of reminds me of when I was on the council back in Santa Monica. I used to tell people if we're not sitting at the table, we could be on the menu. And so this is another remembrance of it. And I think it's only appropriate that the Asian American and Pacific Islanders are using that as their theme for this celebration. I'd like to just open up in the recognition of the AAPI heritage on a federal level, which began in 1978, with President Jimmy Carter signed a resolution into law that had been introduced by Representative Frank Horton of Rochester, New York, which established the Asian Pacific American Heritage Week to take place in early May. The dates were chosen to commemorate the arrival of the first Japanese immigrants to the United States on May 7th, 1843. And to mark the anniversary of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10th, 1869, in recognition of the Chinese immigrants who made up a majority of laborers completing the work on the project. From then on, it was celebrated 1 week in May every year until 1990, when a new law was passed to expand the observance to a month. In 1992, Representative Horton made the push to make this month-long celebration permanent. At that time, Horton credited Capitol staff Jenny Ju with the original idea for such a recognition back in the mid-1970s. Ju first approached Horton about celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islanders heritage because she was disappointed that these communities had been largely ignored during the nation's bicentennial celebration in 1976. And she was also inspired by the memory of her grandfather, who was one of the laborers working on the railroad before he was tragically killed in the act of anti-Chinese violence. Congress officially passed the law designating May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and it has been celebrated in the United States ever since. Especially with the recent increase in harassment and violence against Asian Americans in response to COVID-19, the pandemic, it is also important that they take the time throughout the month to acknowledge the discrimination AAP individuals and communities have faced throughout U.S. history. For this harsh act by folks throughout the U.S., not just here in California, I think it's appropriate that we acknowledge their contributions, and you're seeing quite a bit done by some of the major networks and many of the groups in the community, and I just wanted to acknowledge that and put that on the record as well. And with that, let me turn to my colleagues and see if we have any comments. I'll start with my vice chair.
Thank you
Ms.
so
Lehman.
much. Well, it is really a pleasure to recognize this commemorative month. It's hard to imagine what California would be like without the contributions of our API communities. Our history is still being interpreted and reinterpreted and uncovered in ways that have really deepened our understanding of the conditions throughout our history. And our history is still being written in California by new generations who are committed to equality. And there are many more beautiful and meaningful contributions coming forward from these new generations. I am very thankful for my API friends and family members, and I'd like to echo the chair's statement about we each have a role to play in highlighting the positive contributions, which are many and varied and in every domain of our lives, and to calling out and saying no to even the smallest incursions of hate into our communities. It's important to be upstanders every single time that we're given the opportunity to. And that's how we build a new and equitable and positive California going forward.
Thank you. Let me also acknowledge the presence and welcome our controller, Malia Cohen, who's with us.
Good morning, colleagues. It's good to see you all this morning. Happy to be back here in the chamber with you. Are we just acknowledging API Heritage Month, or are we also doing small business and Jewish American?
It's open.
It's open.
It's
Okay.
open for opening comment. That's what I kind of focused on this morning, and I kind of pulled away from any. I know there's several folks that we're going to close in adjournment at the
Okay.
end, but
I have some thoughts that I do want to share.
Sure.
That incorporates not just API Heritage Month, but also acknowledges May as being Small Business Month and also acknowledging Jewish American Heritage Month. So if I may just take a few moments to just incorporate all of this. And so it's actually during a really auspicious time during Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month that we honor the determination and the sacrifice of those who courageously reached out for their hopes and dreams in new land, to celebrate the countless contributions of the API community as California continues to progress forward. I think this is an idea and an ideology that we all can connect with at some point, right? Most of us coming as immigrants to this country, working hard, digging deep, and really trying to carve out the American dream for ourselves and our family. There are more than 1 million immigrants who journeyed across the Pacific Ocean to arrive at Angel Island. You know Angel Island. That's in the Bay Area.
Giving it a plug, I know.
Had to give a shout out there. Since once they arrived at Angel Island, it was home to thousands of Chinese American railroad workers who pushed the wheels of progress forward in building the transcontinental railroad. California's proudly home to more than 6 million people of API descent whose rich heritage strengthens the very fabric of this entire state, whether it be music, whether it be food, dance, just a cultural a part of our cultural fabric. And so this is a really exciting time. We're celebrating API communities. We must also redouble our commitment to combating the surge of the anti-Asian hate crimes, Mr. Chair, that you spoke of, Ms. Vice Chair, that you also spoke of, because far too long API communities have been the target of violence, hate, and alienation. Attacks on Asian American women. We've seen attacks on elders that have left too many families in fear of leaving their own home and fearful that their loved ones will be injured. This past Lunar New Year, in what should have been a time of joy, was actually marked with cruelty and a tragedy. You might recall the shooting in Monterey Park.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that I publicly stand with those that have been impacted by this act of violence and hatred, as well as all acts of violence and hatred. And I think that we are united in standing together to end the cycle of senseless gun violence that endangers our children and our community. Needless to say that hate has no place in California, and every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. So as we continue to commemorate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, we pay tribute to our API brothers and sisters who strive to create a better future for our children and grandchildren. And so let us just take a moment. This is not just ceremonial and lip service that we're giving, but I think this is just a public testament to paying tribute to history, but also recommitting ourselves to embrace the diversity that we all share, and ensuring that Californians all have an equal chance to succeed in this state that we love. I want to move on and just recognize Small Business Month here in California. And we're in a unique place where small businesses are really starting to feel the crunch of doing business, whether we're talking about inflation, whether we're talking about businesses folding and moving to other parts of the state, leaving the United States, leaving California, going to other parts of the United States. We say this all the time, but it's very serious, that small businesses form the backbone of our economy. There are actually more than 4.2 million small businesses here in California. And here at the Board of Equalization, we have an opportunity to interface with small businesses and help support them as they continue to pay their property taxes. And when we're talking about small businesses, I just want to be mindful that we're talking about pizza parlors, beauty salon, bookstores. I mean, it's just a beautiful array of businesses that make up our small business community that employs more than 7 million people. Nearly half of the state's private sector workforce is contingent on the small business economic engine. Those job growth numbers that the governor and the president tout, well, those are numbers that are coming from small businesses, and they are the ones that are leading the way for our future. So to anyone that's listening, that's thinking about owning or opening a small business, please come on. We need you. The fulfillment of your dreams and path to a better life certainly reside in owning a small business, honoring your family legacy. Building a sustainable economy for all means investing in this small business economy. And we need to continue to nurture that entrepreneurial spirit. I know Senator Gaines knows that spirit well. He's a small business owner and knows how important it is to open up doors and opportunities for all dreamers and all doers. And last but not least, I also want to recognize Jewish American Heritage Month. Now, this is an interesting also month. May has proven to be a pretty heavy month. But California is home to the second largest Jewish population in the United States. And we celebrate heritage and honor the achievements of Jewish Americans throughout history. A history that dates back to the founding of our nation, when Jewish American patriots fought to help secure our independence. And to all Jewish Americans, your hope and your wisdom, light and love are all part of the foundations that make this state a huge beacon of light for the entire United States. We are aware that the contributions of Jewish Americans are shadowed by a long and painful history. Anti-Semitism is on the rise and will always be a threat to broader human values to which we all must aspire to. And also want to acknowledge and call out that we will not allow anti-Semitism to take root, and we will not allow for it to hatefully spread apart and be a part of our country. That is a lot I've said, but I think one thing that is thematic, that is true, is that we need to stand up in the face of all hatred and bigotry, whether it's homosexuality, bias against transgender folks, standing with the African American communities as we continue to remember that Black Lives Matter, and also uplifting Native and Latino Chicano Americans. So we have a lot of work to do, but we also stand on a great moment of history. So with that, I turn back my microphone to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for tying that all together. And you know, you reminded me, I mean, I didn't realize May was so international when you think about it. I mean, you know, we open it up with Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yes, we
and
do.
Then, so you kind of cover that era, and then you're bringing up the Jewish connection here with the Jewish community as well. And of course, you know, Asian Pacific Islanders now, that's their month. So it's so relevant. And you're right, you know, I think it kind of ties into just the whole, I mean, sad to say we're seeing so many shootings. You know, I think we're up way over what we were last year.
Yes.
And we're not even halfway through the year. And it's just a tragic. But hopefully we can get the federal government to step up and, if nothing else, at least ban assault weapons. I mean,
Agreed.
God. But anyway, let me turn to my colleague here, Mr. Gaines. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Just want to also recognize APAPA and the great things that they've done. In particular, I want to recognize CC Yin, who's been so active and engaged for years and years and years, and helped with founding that organization. And I had the pleasure of having a student through their youth leadership program work in my office, and looking forward to more students in the future. Also, just wanted to recognize this issue that, hey, we're all God's creation, and so violence is just unacceptable. If anybody, if violent actions are being taken against anyone, we need to stand up and fight for that. And if it's race-related, that's unacceptable. I would also like to take a moment to also recognize Jewish Americans and their great contributions in all aspects of our society. And if you take a look, all you got to do is take a look at almost any profession in the world and in America to see the great achievements that they have made. And so we need to continue to make sure that they are not targeted, and also need to make sure that we are keeping a watchful eye on Israel and the challenges that they continue to suffer. And then if I could end on a bright note, just in terms of Mother's Day. So I just want to thank all the mothers out there and the very difficult challenges that they have to endure. And I think of my wife and what she's done with our children, but all mothers, I mean, it's just incredible. And I'm just blown away at the roles that they play, especially in broken households where, for whatever reason, the father's not engaged or not involved, and how important that mother is in that dynamic with raising the children. And we see it over and over again in sports too, where there are individuals that the dad's not there, but the mom's pushing and making sure their daughter, their son excel in many aspects of life, college education, sports, you name it. So just wanted to lift them up and thank them for their contributions. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have two mothers sitting up on the dais here. And I know one of them has a very young one, and that's got to be a challenge when you're representing the whole state of California, I'm sure. But
Yes, you hear how I'm congested. Madison.
they
Madison
pass on all those
so
little
lovingly gave me a
friendly
cold.
germs to you, right?
Yes.
Member Schaefer?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's nice to see our controller. She's always one of the best-dressed individuals in Sacramento. And I'd like to make a quick reference to two of our most successful Californians who are having a birthday today. We all remember fondly Joan Collins, who turns 90 today. She starred in Dynasty, as you know, over the years. I used to see her shopping at Nate and Al's Deli in Beverly Hills. And another birthday boy today is Drew Carey, who went through thousands of editions of The Price is Right, an esteemed comedian. Both of these people are alive and well and here to celebrate their birthday today, number 65 for Drew and number 90 for Joan. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, let me turn it back to Ms. Kitty, and we'll start our agenda.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Our first order of business is our informational announcement. This meeting is live streamed to the public and posted on the BOE YouTube channel. There is no hearing reporter today. The transcript for this meeting will be created from the audio live stream. First, I would like to remind the audience to silence your cell phones and any other wireless devices. Second, public comment is taken on each agenda item. The public will be invited to comment during the matters before the board. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the board on any agenda item in person, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant of Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice and follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. If you intend on making a public comment today using the AT&T moderator, we recommend dialing into the meeting on the teleconference line prior to the beginning of the agenda item you wish to make a comment. We recommend this as the audio broadcast of our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay between the live stream and the live event. When giving a public comment, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. This concludes the informational announcement. Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead.
Our first agenda item today is item 1, board photograph. The board will go into recess to take the official annual photograph.
We will take a brief recess, and then we'll be right back up.
All righty.
Okay, I'm hearing that AT&T is ready to go, so we'll go ahead. We'll reconvene. Ms. Cicchetti, if you would call the first order of business.
The first item on today's meeting agenda is item number 2, public comment on matters not on the agenda. Persons who wish to address the State Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda may do so under this item on the agenda. Please note that the board cannot take action on any items not on the agenda. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration at future meetings. When giving your public comment, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. The clerk will notify the chair when the time has expired. I could call the moderator, AT&T moderator. Can you let us know if there's anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to ask a question or if you have any comments, press 10 now. Nobody's queuing at this time.
Okay. I also want to make note that we have not received any written public comments, and there's no one in the audience who'd like to make a public comment. No one has come forward. So we'll go to our next item. Our next item on the agenda is item number 3, State Assessed Properties Value Setting. This item is the board sets unitary values of state assessed properties annually on or before May 31st pursuant to constitutional and statutory law. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This item will be presented by Mr. McCool, Ms. Cruz, Ms. Williams, and Ms. Vang.
Good morning, and welcome to Mr. McCool and Ms. Cruz. And I just wanted to, before you start your presentation, if you could just kind of set the tone for us with, I understand there's 5 different types of the value setting here. And if you can just kind of give us a brief value setting, the process, and provide us with any last-minute updates before you get into your presentation. That'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Vasquez and honorable members of the board. My name is Jack McCool. I'm the chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. With me as well today are Michelle Cruz, manager of our Unitary Valuation and Auditing section, as well as Lucy Vang and Tara Williams, both supervisors in our Unitary Valuation and Auditing section. As the chair requested, I would like to I'm going to do a brief overview of our process. And before I do so, I would just like to take this moment to personally thank the entire State Assessed Properties Division staff for all of their hard work and dedication. All of our units have been working at full capacity to complete their work during this busy season, and I just want to tell the staff that their hard work and long hours are very much appreciated. Members, the item before you today is the unitary value setting. Before we begin the actual value setting, I will provide a brief overview. The BOE is responsible for assessing property owned or used by certain public utilities and other specified companies operating in California, enabling counties to use those values to collect local property tax. Property values on the state assessed roll are allocated by the BOE to the counties where the properties are located. Each county collects taxes based upon those allocated values. To meet this responsibility, the State Assessed Properties Division annually transmits value recommendations to the board. Each year, staff prepares unitary value indicators and fair market value recommendations for each state assessee. These indicators and recommendations, which are developed annually from information provided by state assessees, are used by the board to determine the fair market value of this assessee's unitary property. Every December, SAPD sends each state assessee a set of industry-specific property statement forms. These forms, which are similar in concept to filing your income taxes each year, are due to our office March 1st. SAPD has statutory authority to grant filing extensions, which we do in the majority of cases. Our auditor appraisers spend all of March and April completing the unitary appraisals, and each appraisal goes through several levels of review. Each unitary appraisal includes staff-prepared value indicators and a fair market value recommendation, which are then transmitted to the board members and their staff as soon as our reviews have been completed. This year's unitary values are 7.26% higher compared to 2022's unitary values. That is consistent with increases we have seen in recent years. As a matter of fact, last year's values were 7.48% higher than the previous year. The gas and electric industry is by far the largest industry in terms of assessed value, and that industry increased by about 8% overall compared to the prior year. We saw virtually the same percentage increase last year as well. This industry continues to see increased growth year over year in terms of new property added. Most of these utilities are replacing older property that is severely depreciated with new property that has experienced little to no depreciation. The trend of replacing aging infrastructure is expected to continue in coming years. Other industry groups that saw an increase in value this year included the railroad industry, which continues to see a high demand for shipping, and the wireless telephone and inter-exchange telecom industries. Both of these telecom industries are in highly competitive industries, and the trend factors used in our appraisals also reflected high costs as a result of inflation. Our trend factors are calculated each year using market data. Some industries saw a decline in value this year, including the local telephone industries and the electric generation industry. The local telephone industry continues to see a decline in customers, while the electric generation industry has several older facilities near the life of their contracts to sell power, which causes a decrease in the income indicator staff calculates. There are 336 state assessees this year with a unitary value. Once the board sets the unitary values, our division will mail a notice of unitary value to each state assessee, which will report the value adopted by the board, as well as information on how to file an appeal. The deadline to file an appeal of unitary value is July 20th. So the task at hand for our division is to determine, for property taxation purposes, the total value of each state assessee's operating property in California on an annual basis. This year's staff recommended values make up the agenda item before you this morning. The next step in the annual process is for our staff to then determine how much of each assessee's total value should be allocated to each of the counties in which the state assessees have property. These allocated assessed values will come before the board at the July meeting, when the board roll of state assessed values is scheduled to be considered. Once the board adopts the final state assessment roll in July, our office will transmit those allocated values to the 58 counties. The counties determine the appropriate tax rates and apply those rates to our state assessed values. The counties will then issue the annual property tax bills, and the property tax they collect stays locally and helps to fund schools and local governments. Members, that concludes my overview of the process, and if you have any questions, happy to answer them. If not, we can begin with this year's value setting.
I have a question.
For any
Looks like we have a
questions,
couple
please
for you.
press 10.
Oh, I guess
No.
AT&T is on the
Yeah.
line.
AT&T, we're not taking any calls at this time.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let me start. On my left here, I see Member Gaines with his hand up.
I, just trying to understand your description in terms of the valuation determination that then is given to each county. And you indicated that they set the tax rate.
Correct.
So when I look at our charge as a board of equalization in terms of taxation between counties, are we charging different tax rates to in different counties?
The ad valorem tax rate component is the same. There's a 1% component.
Okay.
On top of that, there is a component for bonded indebtedness. There's also direct levies that are charged by special districts.
Okay.
Though that portion of the rate can differ between counties.
Okay, and those rates are set locally
Correct.
within the county. So I
Correct.
just wanted to make sure I understood that clearly.
Sure.
Thank you.
Of course.
Member Schaefer, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. McCool, I'm all in favor of giving a little slack to the businesses that we deal with if there is some kind of error. I notice here that we're correcting the penalty to go from 291,000 to 292,000. We really are increasing the penalty here. I'd be much more pleased if you'd be reducing the penalty. And I'd like to ask you if there's any showing of good faith, because we have some good faith on the behalf of our assessees. I think we should reward that good faith and be kind and forgiving.
That particular instance was, in fact, a clerical error. The statute requires our office to apply a 10% penalty for any assessee that files their property statement late. Unfortunately, for that initial instance, we had a clerical error, so the revision before you is simply to correct the clerical error. I will say that generally speaking, when there is due cause, our staff does support any penalty abatement petition requests that will come before the board later on. So in all of these matters, each assessee will have the opportunity to appeal in their assessed value, including any penalties that were assessed due to late filing.
I would urge you to use the word abatement when you can in avoidance of an appeal. We try to help our assessees as much as we can. Thank
Of
you.
course.
Seeing no other hands, I think we're good. Go ahead, continue.
Chair Vasquez and
Oh,
Honorable.
before we start, we have a couple of items that we have to kind of go through, but I appreciate that. Just wanted to make a couple of statements here. This item that we're doing first is of the five, the first one is electric generation facilities. The staff presentation and request for adoption includes all values. I want to, and we need to ask, are there any members, is there any specific company in this group, electric generation facilities, that we wish to take up separately?
I believe there is one. I remember
Yeah, through-
Gaines brought it to my
through the
attention. Go
chair.
ahead.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So due to a financial interest, I will not participate with respect to Pacific Corp., which is item 106, Sierra Pacific Power, that's item 146, Kern River Gas Transmission Company, item 188, and BNSF Railroad Company, number 804.
All righty. The first three that you listed are part of the energy companies, and we'll make note of it when the vote comes for that.
Thank you.
And the last item is a railroad company.
Yes.
Which we'll be taking up later on.
Thanks for accommodating
We will
that.
then take up those four items at the end, and Mr. Gaines can.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're just going to continue on then. Mr. McCool and Ms. Cruz?
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Vasquez and honorable members, before you this morning is the value setting workbook that was previously provided. The workbook is arranged into 5 industry groups in the following order: electric generation, energy companies, pipeline, railroads, and telecommunications. We will simply read the name of each industry group one at a time and ask the board to adopt staff's recommended values. After the board completes its vote for the first industry, we will introduce the next industry group and will continue with the same pattern until the board has taken action on all industries and assessees. If any member requests not to participate in the particular assessee, we will make note of that and ask the participating members for a vote on those assessees after we have finished the final industry. Chair Vasquez, if you are ready, we can introduce the first industry group.
Yes, thank you.
The first industry group is the electric generation facilities. Chair Vasquez and honorable members, I ask for your adoption of staff recommended values for the electric generation industry.
Seeing no questions or comments, I entertain a motion for that.
So moved?
It's been moved by our controller, and I'll second that.
Okay, let's go out to the AT&T moderator for public comment. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item, the electric generation facilities?
If you wish to ask any question or have any comments, please press 10 at this time. Nope, nobody has any questions.
Thank you. I want to make note, we have no one in the audience who wants to make a comment, and we have not received anything in writing. So we have a member Vasquez has made a motion to,
Actually, Controller
oh,
Cohen.
I apologize. Controller Cohen made the motion, and Mr. Vasquez seconded the motion to adopt the electric generation facilities values as presented by staff. I'll take the roll.
Please.
Chair Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. Thank you. With that, we can move on to the next item.
Our next group is the energy company. I ask for your adoption of staff's recommended values for the energy industry.
And members, for clarity, Member Gaines has asked not to participate on Pacific Core number 106, Sierra Pacific Power number 146, and Kern River Gas Transmission Company number 188, which are included in this group, and we can take those items at the end, just for
So we'll
clarity.
separate those out.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing no comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and second.
We'll take a public comment. We have no one in the audience who has made a request to make a presentation and nothing in writing. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding energy companies?
Any public comment from the line, telephone line, please press 10 now. Nope, nobody's queuing.
All righty. Then we have a motion that was presented by Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Ms. Cohn. Controller Cohn, the motion is to adopt the energy company values as presented by staff, less the three items. Pacific Corp., SB 106, Sierra Pacific Power Company, SB number 146, and Kern River Gas Transmission Company, SB 188. I'll take the roll. Chair Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. We can move on to the next item.
Our next group is the pipeline industry. I ask for the board's adoption of the staff's recommended values for the pipeline industry.
Seeing no hands or comments, I will move the staff recommendation. And it's been seconded by my vice chair, Ms. Lieber. Ms. Chiquetti, I guess we can, I'm
Got to
assuming,
the- yeah,
let's
no
find out if
public
there's
comment.
anybody on the line or if we have any
Yes.
written comments. Okay.
No written comment, no one in the audience. Let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding the pipeline companies?
Anybody that will wish to ask any comment or any question, please press 10. Nope,
Okay, thank you.
nobody's queuing now.
Thank you. I have a motion presented by Mr. Vasquez, seconded by the Vice Chair Lieber. The motion is to adopt the pipeline company values as presented by staff. I'll call roll. Chair Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
Okay.
So that's unanimous of all those present. Next item.
Our next group is the railroad industry. I ask for your adoption of the staff's recommended values for the railroad industry.
And once again, members, for clarity, Member Gaines is asked not to vote on BNSF Railway Company number 804, which we can also take at the end. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, then we'll go ahead and move the staff recommendation.
I need a second.
And it's been seconded by my vice chair, Ms. Lieber.
All righty. I have no one in the audience, and I have not received anything in writing. We're going to go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding railroad companies?
Anybody who wants to, for any comments, please press 10. Nope, no comments.
Thank you, moderator. I have a motion presented by Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Vice Chair Lieber. Move to adopt the railroad company values as presented by staff, less the railroad company BNSF Railway Company, SBE number 804. I could take roll. Chair Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. Next, thank you.
Our final industry group is telecommunications. I ask for the board's adoption of staff recommended values for the telecommunications industry.
Seeing no hands or comments, I will go ahead and move the staff recommendation. It's been seconded by my vice chair, Ms. Lieber.
All righty. We're going to go out to the AT&T moderator. I have no one in the audience, and I have not received any written comment on this item. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding telecommunication companies?
No one is online now.
Thank you, AT&T moderator. I have a motion presented by Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Vice Chair Lieber. Move to adopt the telecommunication company values as presented by staff. I will take roll. Chair Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
All righty.
So that's unanimous of all those present.
Finally, members, as Member Gaines has declared non-participation in 4 companies, I ask for the board's adoption of staff's recommended values for Pacific Corp. number 106, Sierra Pacific Power number 146, Kern River Gas Transmission Company number 188, and BNSF Railway Company number 804. Thank you.
Oh, yes, Vice Chair. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll move that staff recommendation on those items.
So it's been moved by Vice Chair, and I'll go ahead and second that.
All righty, let's, we have no written comments, and I have not received anyone who's in the audience. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment at this time?
Anybody wishing to ask any questions or add any comments, please press 10 now. Nope, nobody's queuing, sorry.
Thank you. I have a motion presented by Vice Chair Lieber, seconded by Chair Vasquez. Move to adopt the values of the companies which were separated. SB number 106, Pacific Corp. SB number 146, Sierra Pacific Power Company. SB number 188, Kern River Gas Transmission Company. And SBE number 804, BNSF Railway Company. Let's take roll. Chair Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Controller Cohen.
Aye.
And that's unanimous with those present, minus Member Gaines, who stepped out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I make some comments
Oh,
before we
sure.
Mr. McCool and his team leaves?
Yes, go ahead,
So
Member Cohen.
also to the members of the public that may be listening or watching, will come back and watch this archive. This exercise that we actually just went through is incredibly important to state and local counties. It actually. I just wanted to note that these assessments generate over $2 billion for in local property tax revenue for the state's 58 counties. So although it may seem like a simple aye vote going in here, I want to just acknowledge the incredible work that Mr. McCool has done, your entire team, Cruz, Vang, and Williams. Thank you very much for coming to make this presentation. I know you simplify it when you come up here and you just kind of read your statements, but to the members of the public that are watching this and always learning through this process, this is an incredibly important process that the Board of Equalization carries out on behalf of the state of California. It's a constitutional function, which means that it's spelled out. This process that you just witnessed is spelled out in the state constitution, and we are just reminded that the evaluations are a result of careful considerations supported by experience and expertise and foundational institutional memory. So I just want to acknowledge your work in this. Thank you, and also just make sure that we highlight the importance of the transactions that we just completed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
it.
you. With that, Ms.
Okay.
Kitty, we'll go
Yep.
ahead and
The next
Call the
item on
next
the
item.
agenda.
and
Come on
we'll
back.
welcome Member Gaines back.
The next item on the agenda is item number 4, invitation to annual meeting of the Board and California County Assessors, presented by Mr. Young.
Morning, Chair Vasquez, honorable members of the board. For the record, my name is David Young, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. I bring before you today for the board's consideration and action the invitation to the 58 county assessors for our annual board meeting with the county assessors. As brought up in our April meeting, the board is mandated by the Government Code 15607 to meet annually with the county assessors to discuss issues related to property taxation, assessments, and new property tax laws. The proposed date for that meeting is in September 27th at 10 a.m. to be held here in the board chambers. So before you, I've attached the meeting invite to be issued through a letter to assessors to all 58 counties, inviting them to such meeting. It's before you for action. I ask that you approve the invitation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
I have a question.
We have one question so far here from Member Schaefer. Go ahead.
Of course.
Hi, Mr. Young. I'd like to ask you about attendance of, this has been going on for, I don't know, 50 years, 100 years. I mean, the assessors have always met with the BOE. I understand that our actual attendance is closer to 50% than 90%. What do you know about the actual attendance that we do get? And are there some people, some assessors that have never participated? Is there anything we can do to make it more interesting for them?
Thank you, Board Member Schaefer, for that question. Our attendance has always been, it's been robust, but it's, as far as my memory goes, it has never been 100%. But we do get we get a substantial amount of assessors participating. And in the last couple of iterations where we've had the ability, where we've broadcasted it and have the ability to do some remote coming in, actually our participation from the assessors have actually been going up a little bit. So it's as far as I can remember, we've not had all 58 counties at one time, but it's always been fairly robust and it's been well attended.
Have we ever had 50 counties?
I believe we may have gotten really close to 50 counties at one time, a couple years back.
I understand that we have lunch with them, but this letter doesn't say anything about food. I mean, can you beef it up? That would
Perhaps that can be it's just this letter is for us to formally invite them and to act as a save the date type function so they know when the meeting is, even though we have been in contact and work with the CAA, the California Assessor Association, and come up with this date.
I'd like us to host a lunch, and, I'll pay for it if that means anything.
Sure.
If we were having it in San Diego, I'd toss in a ticket to the zoo and to SeaWorld. I don't know what the attractions are right here, but let's give them some incentive, like lunch. And if they'd like to say hello to the governor, maybe we can get him to drop over and say hi during that lunch. That might mean a lot to some of them who've never had the chance to meet the governor.
The agenda's yet to be set.
Member Gaines, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just comment to that. I appreciate your comments in terms of, having, if we could have lunch, it'd be wonderful. I know that last year we coordinated with the Controller's office, and so I want to make sure that we engage her office with any plans that we have for lunch. But I thought that was really nice to be able and bring everybody together and have everybody in one room for lunch. And it was good food. And I'm trying to remember what building it was in. It was it wasn't the Crocker, but it
Senator Gaines, it was at the Stanford Mansion. The historic
Stanford Mansion. Thank you.
I'd like to see that you invite the governor. If he were in town, did not have a luncheon date, I think he'd love to show up.
Well noted. It looks like we have staff. They'll work on it. Let's see what we can do to make it as attractive and enticing for all 58 counties to show up, if possible. With that,
I
I'll
need a
move the
motion.
staff's recommendation, and then it's been seconded by my vice chair, Ms. Lieber. See no other hands or comments? I guess, do we need to go out to AT&T?
Yes, we do. Yeah, got no one in the audience who has come forward to make a statement on this item. I have not received anything in writing. We're going to go out to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0. I do apologize. I'm having some technical issues with my screens. One moment while I get someone else to take it real quick to confirm if there is. Do apologize. One moment.
There's a vote needed to secure the date. You guys are, all board actions require public comment.
Yes. And there was no written comment on this? right?
Nothing, yeah, no,
Okay.
we have not received anything in writing.
And I thought, we didn't hear anything, or AT&T still going out?
He's having trouble with something. I believe he's checking it on the line.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I did get confirmation from one of my coworkers. There's no one currently in the queue at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have a motion from Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Vice Chair Lieber. The motion is to approve the invitation to the California County Assessors to meet with the board and authorize representatives on September 27th, 2023. I will take roll. Let's see here. Let me get my right page here. Chair Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. Thank you. With that,
Thank you.
thank you. Chiquetti, if you go on to the next item.
The next item on the agenda is item number 5, 4R Act Equalization Ratio for fiscal year 2023-24. Adoption of the 4R Act Equalization Ratio for the current fiscal year, ensuring the rail transportation property is assessed at the same percentage of market values as other commercial industrial property. This item is being presented by Mr. McCool.
Good morning again, Chair.
Back.
Thank you. Good morning again, Chair Vasquez and honorable members. For the record, my name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. The item before you is the 4R Act Equalization Ratio. The 4 R's stand for Railroad Revitalization and Regulatory Reform Act, which was enacted by Congress in 1976. The act stated that rail transportation property should be assessed at the same percentage of market value as all other commercial and industrial property. Revenue and Taxation Code Section 1817 requires the board to annually conduct a study to determine the statewide and county-by-county ratio of assessed value to fair market value of commercial and industrial real property. The Legislative Research and Statistics staff conducted this year's study using the 2021-22 property roll, and it yielded an estimated statewide ratio of assessed value to market value of commercial and industrial property of 54.31%. This is a decrease of 1.74 percentage points from last year's ratio. This ratio will be applied to the unitary values of the railroads adopted earlier this morning, as well as the private railroad car valuations, which will come before the board in July. Staff recommends that the board assess rail transportation property at 54.31% of the market value for the 2023 roll. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have and ask for your adoption of this year's ratio. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you, Mr. McCool. Just one quick question. And it's mainly, the steady decrease in this ratio you kind of touched on, particularly since the property values were still so high last year. What kind of accounts for that?
Virtually, it's all from Proposition 13.
Oh, really?
So this is a ratio of assessed value to market value. And as the state assessees in the private railroad card, for example, they're not subject to any Prop 13 value restrictions as locally assessed property is. So this essentially, in a different way, sort of provides those Prop 13 protections for the railroad property. As the intention of the act, I believe, was to ensure that railroad property received the same treatment as all other commercial and industrial property is assessed.
Sounds like Mr. Young wants to weigh in too.
No. Mr. McCool has it absolutely right. It is a product of Prop 13. What the ratio is actually inversely related to how well the market is doing. So as the market is doing well, doing better, the value, the fair market value appreciates, but your Prop 13 base holds it down. So it can only go up 2% a year. So as your market increases 5% a year, your Prop 13 value, the spread gets higher and higher, and the ratio gets lower and lower. So it's an inverse relationship. When the market is actually declining, that ratio should actually grow. It should actually get higher. So it's an inverse relation. It's the difference between what Prop 13 holds your value at and what the fair market does. So as that market appreciates, the ratio will start going down.
So it's similar to the residential, which I guess we reasoned for Prop 13 way back in the day. I remember to kind of hold senior citizens from
Right.
losing their property.
It's to keep grandma from being basically
Exactly.
taxed out of her home,
Thank you.
of course.
Seeing no other hands or comments? We need a motion for this. It looks like my vice chair is ready to step up and move the staff recommendation.
Sure, I'll move that we adopt the proposed rate for the taxation of rail property as recommended by staff.
I'll second that. Do we have any written comments on this one?
We have no written comments that we've received, and I don't have anyone in the audience who's come forward who'd like to make a statement. Let's go out to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you wish to comment on this, please press 1, then 0 at this time. And Madam Chair, we have no one queuing up at this time.
Thank you. Alrighty, I have a motion made by Vice Chair Lieber, seconded by Mr. Vasquez. The motion is to move to adopt the 4R Act equalization ratio as presented by staff. I will take roll. Chair.
Do we need to list the year on that, or does it matter? Because I noticed here.
I could add
Just for
to
the
the
record, I'm
motion
thinking.
the fiscal year 2023, 2024 as presented by staff. Okay. Chair Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cicchetti, if we go on to the next
The
item.
next item on today's agenda is item number 6, adoption of property tax forms. This item will be presented by Ms. Schultz.
While she's coming up, just a friendly reminder, we need to make sure we silence or turn off our phones up here. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair Vasquez and honorable board members. I am Glenna Schultz, Principal Property Appraiser in the County Assessed Properties Division. Government Code Section 15606 requires that the board prescribe and enforce the use of all forms for the assessment of property for taxation. Pursuant to that mandate, BOE staff works with the California Assessors Association's Forms Subcommittee on the revisions of forms. Attached to this month's agenda is a memo containing proposed revisions to 11 property tax forms. These 11 property tax forms are being presented to the board for approval and adoption.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Oh, Member Gaines, go ahead.
So these have been streamlined, or what has happened? Have there been changes to these forms, and if so, in what ways?
Most of the changes were suggested by county assessors.
Okay.
We met with the Form Subcommittee twice to go through the changes. And so
Wonderful.
they have been approved. Once these forms are approved, then they will be sent to county assessors to actually be created by the counties. The county assessor will take the prototype, put their logo, their name, their address, their phone number, and contact information to each of the forms.
Appreciate that cooperation. That's real, kind of real-time feedback. Is that how we do it with all of our forms, when we interact with the assessors?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Oh, that's good. So it sounds like that helps in terms of uniformity throughout the state, right?
Yes.
Yes, Vice Chair Lieber, go ahead.
Thank you. I felt that the changes were very positive and were mostly, I would characterize them as clarifying changes, because the essential elements need to be in there, but I felt that the changes do make it much clearer and more direct for taxpayers to be able to utilize them. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
Seeing no other hands or comments, we need a motion to adopt these, I'm assuming.
Motion to approve?
Yes, we
To
do.
approve. So I got Member Gaines moved to approve, and it looks like my Vice Chair wants to second that.
Okay. I don't have anyone in the audience who has come forward to make a comment on this item, and I have not received any written comments. We're going to go out to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
And if you wish to speak on this item, please press 1, then 0 at this time. And Madam Chair, I have no one wishing to speak at this time.
Thank you. All righty, I have a motion that's presented by Member Gaines and is seconded by Vice Chair Lieber. The motion is to adoption of the property tax forms as presented by staff. I'll do roll. Chair Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
So that's unanimous, all those present. Thank you.
The next item on today's agenda is the consent agenda, item number 7, adoption of the April 26, 2023 board meeting minutes. The meeting minutes for the April 26, 2023 board meeting were attached to the public agenda notice for your consideration and adoption.
Members, were there any comments or questions or clarifications of the minutes of April 26, 2023 as presented? Seeing no hands, or we will entertain a motion to adopt. It sounds like my Vice Chair is going to go ahead and move the approval of board minutes of April 26, 2023 as presented. And then Member Gaines will second that.
Okay, we've got that. I have no one in the audience who's come forward to make a comment on this item, and I have not received anything in writing. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0. And at this time, there's no one queuing up, Madam Chair.
Thank you, moderator. Alrighty, we have a motion presented by Vice Chair Lieber, seconded by Member Gaines. The motion is to adopt the board meeting minutes for the April 26th, 2023 board meeting as presented. I will take roll. Chair Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Alrighty,
So that's unanimous, of all those present.
yes.
Mr. Ketty, if you go on to the next item.
The next item, yes. I know, I am in contact that I know that Mr. Parker is on the line, so we could go to the next item here. The next item on the agenda is Board Member Matters and Initiatives, item number 8, Assessment Appeals Board Training Course. Update on proposal for a training course regarding Assessment Appeals Board, AAB, procedures and property tax rules to be offered voluntarily through the County Councils Association of California. This item is being presented by Mr. Vasquez.
Good morning, Mr. Parker, I see you on the screen, so let me just begin with a little introduction, then we'll turn it over to our speaker here. As you may recall, members, Mr. Thomas Parker, Senior Deputy County Counsel of the County of Los Angeles, offered in writing at our February 22nd meeting to voluntarily assist in drafting the AAB County Council Training Course to be available to county tax councils throughout the counties, Councils Associations of California. The course will cover property tax rules 301-326. The board agreed to accept his offer and support him by requesting review of the materials by the agency's legal department and property tax department. The following such review, I committed to working with the executive director to schedule a hearing to allow public input and discussion with all stakeholders prior to any board approval. Mr. Parker is present with us virtually today to provide an update on this project and next steps. Mr. Parker, I see you on the screen, so I'll let you take it over from here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson and honorable members of the State Board of Equalization. I have been working on a draft training document, and my goal in terms of time, as I speak to you today, is to submit not later than June 30th, and hopefully earlier, a draft document to the State Board staff individuals that you mentioned in your introduction for their review and any comments and editing that they feel is appropriate. I am doing this in the midst of preparing an amicus brief in a case pending before the State Supreme Court at this time. And I am also handling my normal workload of Assessment Appeals Board work with Los Angeles County. We now have 8 panels operating as I speak, and also land use development matters that I handle as a part of my normal assignment. But wanted to let you know I am making good progress on this document, and not later than June 30th, and ideally earlier, your staff individuals will have a review to look at and comment on. That's where we're at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Parker, for your presentation and the time you've devoted in listening to all the different hats you're wearing. This is obviously very taxing, and I'm sure you're having to give up some personal time. So I wanted to thank you for that. Is there anything we could do on our end to help or assist as you move forward?
Thank you for the kind offer, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. At this moment, at this phase, I think it's just something I need to get to your staff. And I will be glad to work with your staff once they have a draft to make changes as needed and get it to a point where you can have your stakeholders meeting that you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, in your introduction to this item.
Thank you. Let me turn to my colleagues and see if there's any. Oh, it looks like Member Gaines has a question for you.
Oh, just
Yes, sir.
No, I just really wanted to thank you for stepping up. We really appreciate this. I think it'll create great value for individuals serving on assessment appeal boards, and I'm excited about moving forward with it. I would like to know, and maybe this is something to be determined, but how is it implemented? How is it taught? Is it going to be in the form of something you might download, a video that you would watch, or is it a workbook that you would have people go through? I'm just curious.
Well, I'm certainly open to comments and suggestions. As Ronald Reagan once said on a tax bill back in the late 60s or early 70s, his feet were not in concrete, or something to that effect. on the particular issue. But at this moment, to answer your question, sir, I am preparing a written document which would be capable of being presented at a tax conference. And I am willing, and I'm certainly willing, and certainly as the author of this document, once it's finalized and approved by your board, to inquire of the possibility of getting a presentation agendized at one of our county council property tax meetings in the future, whatever that means in the end. So I'm willing to commit to inquire about that, even though I'm not the chairperson of the study group and I don't set the agendas. But I would certainly inquire when the final product is ready. At this moment, I do not anticipate a video sort of taped presentation. But again, I'm open to ideas from the board and your staff as to what is the best way to communicate the material. So I'm glad to listen to whatever ideas individuals have.
So this could be a curriculum that could then be given to counties, and then the counties could determine how to provide that information.
What I think would most likely happen, sir, is that through the County Councils Association or through perhaps the statewide Clerks Association, which I know most of the members of the board are familiar with, except for perhaps Ms. Lieber and Mr. Emron, who were not on the board when we were having our discussions about virtual hearings and such several years back. Perhaps through that organization, they could distribute this training to the county clerks, and the county clerks could then decide if they want to give it to their board members. What I will tell you is, as well, Mr. Gaines, is that counties don't have a uniform way of updating or training assessment appeals board members beyond the mandatory statutory course. And so which is another way of saying it's up to each county and each county clerk what exactly sort of training program, if I can use that term, they want to offer their AAB members. I can tell you in Los Angeles what we do, and it's just what we do. It doesn't mean it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's what we do. We have quarterly trainings every year for both AAB panel members and Assessment Appeals Board hearing officers in my county. And county council, myself, and now my co-counsel, we will always be involved in presenting legal topics to the hearing officers and the panel members at the request of our board clerk people. So we have a very, what I believe is a very proactive, consistent, ongoing training program in Los Angeles for our members. But I cannot represent to you that every county operates like we do for obvious reasons.
Well, thank you, Mr. Parker, and thank you, Chair Vasquez, for leading on this. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, Vice Chair, my Vice Chair Lieber, I think, has a couple comments or questions for you.
Thank you. Just comments. I wanted to thank our chair as well as Mr. Parker and the study group that are working on this. I think this is going to provide an important knowledge transfer for other counties, and anything that we can do to be helpful for the counties that don't have the bandwidth that a larger county like LA has, I think is very, very beneficial and is ultimately going to accrue to the taxpayer in terms of a benefit in the process, working smoothly and with transparency and surety. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And I believe we have one more comment here from our Deputy Controller. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, Mr. Parker. I appreciate you presenting to this body and for all your hard work in this training course. When there is a final product, I believe that this board could serve as a vehicle to get that information out to other counties, the other 57 counties. Is my understanding that there's a County Council Association annual conference is happening this month? Is that correct, Mr. Parker?
Well, the County Councils Association has a lot of conferences. Let me be a little more precise so you know what I mean. The appointed county councils hold an annual conference every April in Monterey. What we call study groups for the different areas of county law, like taxation, law enforcement, real estate, etc. They meet twice a year, one time in the spring and in the fall. And one of the meetings is in Northern California, and one of the meetings is always in Southern California. And those geographical differences are defined within the association. So in May of this year, we had our spring tax conference down here in the South. The next one will be mid-November up in the Tahoe area, the Paradise area. But as I say, all of our study groups have 2 meetings a year, one in the South and one in the North.
Understood.
I hope that answers your question.
Understood, Mr. Parker, and I appreciate you clarifying that. When you were at your annual conference here this past month, did you be able to speak with the other county councils on the exact training that they're looking for and would be most helpful to them in this process?
No, I did not. I was busy presenting an assessment appeals board topic on a not related exactly to this training that we're talking about, but I presented skit hearings with legal issues built into the script. And I got lawyers from the group to become actors because I'm from LA. And we did the skit and we identified the legal issues. So that's what I did at this May conference. But no, I did not raise the issue at the May conference about this training. No, sir.
I appreciate you still taking the lead on this, and as the conversations continue into the fall too, it'll be very helpful to get the insight of other counties as well. And then I'm also just thinking about teaming up with the California State Bar and maybe having some type of training credits as we go through this process, and maybe the Board of Equalization can partner with our other state, the State Bar, and get that underway. So it's something meaningful and impactful, and also an incentive for other county councils to take full advantage of what the board and Los Angeles County will be implementing sooner than later. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands or comments come up, but I do see our Executive Director, Ms. Towers, coming up. So let me see. I think she wants to weigh in.
Good morning, Chair Vasquez and members. I just want to first start with saying thank you to Mr. Parker for volunteering his time to prepare this training material that will be used voluntarily by County Council. As he discussed, he has a target date of June, hopefully sooner. Once we do receive the draft document, I will work with staff in the Property Tax Department and the Legal Department to develop an anticipated timeline for our review. And then once we complete our review, I will continue to work with the Chair's office to schedule a public hearing on the material. But I just wanted to stress that very important material that Mr. Parker is putting together, but it's volunteer material. We cannot mandate for County Council to use this training. It's just going to be another item in their tool belt.
Thank you for that clarification. Seeing no other hands or comments, Mr. Kelly, do we have any written comments on this?
No, this is not an action item, so we do not have any written comments on this item, and no one is in the audience coming forward.
Okay, so hearing and seeing none. Once again, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Parker, for the update and looking forward to your next presentation as this thing moves forward. And once again, the offer is still there. If you think there's anything we can do on our end to help facilitate or assist, by all means, please reach out to us.
I can tell you right now, if this is going to become a state bar presentation, I certainly would want the assistance of state board staff to go through that process to make sure, because I'm not immediately familiar with the process, how material is made acceptable for state bar continuing legal education. Just for the record, thank you.
Thank you. With that, seeing no other comments or questions, and there's no real action item on this or motion, so we will go ahead and make note of especially your suggestions as we move forward, and looking forward to the final product here pretty soon. Looking forward, I believe you said you're targeting somewhere in June, late June somewhere?
Not later than June 30th, sir, hopefully sooner. But I wanted to be upfront with the board. I've got an amicus brief to the Supreme Court to write on top of everything else.
I understand you have a real job besides this. So it's noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Cicchetti.
My understanding is this would be a convenient time for us to break for lunch so that we would be able to return in time for the scheduled speakers that we have. We have some scheduled speakers in the afternoon that are going to appear at 12:45.
That's my understanding, yeah. So I guess to accommodate that, you know, and then to not have a late lunch here for the staff, we'll go ahead and do it.
Yes,
We'll
this
break,
is-
I guess, what is it, 11:42 now? And are we looking at
12:45 is fine, because if everyone's back promptly, we could begin right at
12:45
12:45.
is plenty of time to cue in the speakers coming in, right?
Yes.
All right, so it's 11:40, almost 11:45. It's 11:43. We'll recess now and reconvene at 12:45.
Perfect.